Alrighty, so I still haven't got started in redoing this. I've got a file set up on my other computer, the one that uses to run the
Live
live
streams.
streams. So there's a plan to get that going. I just need to find just that schedule to get that done. And I don't know whether to do it first thing in the morning. Probably not, because I like to do videos first thing. So I have those in the bag. Uh, it would appear from my numbers that having just that sheer volume of videos that are all in playlists is helping to keep my numbers good. I'm talking on the main channel. And every now and then a cat video seems to help on this channel. So we'll see how that goes from here. All right. So we are partway through, almost all the way through chapter 6 here. Traveling home is always a touchy subject for Dradston, and doing so now is even worse. When he does travel home, he assumes the identity of his brother Zeg. He and Zeg are identical twins, and Altelian security around Altair is somewhat lax when it comes to people bringing supplies to the planet. Dradston's flying in on one of the older shuttles Falteris has, and its markings are half scratched off. This is the usual transport and the same route he's always taken. It's a trip he takes alone. He sees this as his time to unwind, but this trip is taken. He is being taken with Missy Condra, the assistant to Talia Laris. She's dressed as a vagrant, the type typically used to aid with shipments of goods to Altair. She's unarmed, and as they approach the Altelian security checkpoint, she remains calm. The security grid around Altair is one without equal. If any ship tries entering the atmosphere from any side of the planet, Altelian security know and will shoot anything out of the sky that hasn't first been cleared by a checkpoint. There are 4 of them, one for each quadrant of the planet. There is more at work here than merely dropping off food, of course. Dradston's here to check on people he wasn't able to get out before the occupation of his world became as tight as it is now. He was in no danger of being forced to stay here due to a treaty with Falteris, but he was required to leave within 12 hours and with less weight on board than he had upon his arrival. His craft would also be checked for stowaways, and having any aboard was punishable by death. Zeg, you're back already, the officer asks as Dradston's craft stops at the checkpoint, which is occupied by 3 Altelian fighters. All 3 have weapons locked on Dradston's shuttle, and he has to keep his cool or risk losing his life to a trigger-happy young warrior out to make a name for himself. There's no face-to-face chat, only audio between the ships. Dradston chooses not to answer the comment from the officer, as Zeg was always quiet. What the Altelians don't know is that Zeg has been dead for some time now. It originally been him out here doing the supply runs, but his shuttle had struck a stray asteroid and his life had been taken senselessly. The process of passing through the checkpoint usually takes a few moments, and then he's free to go. On this occasion, there's a longer pause, and it starts making Dradston nervous. His fears are realized as he hears, "Did your brother lead a coup against Cale Wrightley?" Dradston takes a deep breath and calms himself before answering. "My brother has been placed under arrest by Cale Wrightley for that. I don't know what he was thinking. Not a smart move. Not at all. He says in as flat a tone as he can manage. He isn't lying. He managed to manipulate the records so the enemy will believe he's in prison right now, thus allowing him to take his brother's identity for far longer than he normally would bother." The pause that follows his explanation is almost as tough as the first. He looks out at the stars around him. He sees his planet so close. It's a mostly blue world. The surface 85% covered in water. There's a single continent which stretches from the North Pole halfway to the equator on one side. It's a world filled with marine life on a scale the rest of the galaxy envied. Dradston tries his best not to think about the beauty of his world since Altel was occupying it, taking its water and generally abusing it since they can. He doesn't want to deal with these things as he isn't in a position to liberate his world yet. He wants to. He desperately wants to help his people overthrow the oppressive beasts which conquered and enslaved them. This just isn't the time for that, and he has to deal with this as best he can. "Proceed, Zeg. I explained to Gora that you're his brother, not a threat," the officer says. "Many thanks," Dradston says, and then he flies his shuttle towards the planet as casually as he can. They're watching him, so his movements have to be consistent with his other visits. Gora knows he's here. Gora's suspicious of his people, as it is, and he hates Dradston, so news of the coup might put Zeg in jeopardy, if that were possible at this point, too. Once they're in the atmosphere and out of sight of the checkpoint, Missy finally speaks. That was intense. Is it always that intense? No, they're watching me right now. If they know what I did, I may not be able to pass for my twin brother very long. We're going to have to move fast here, drop stuff off, get past the checkpoint, and then use their wormhole to get home. Why did they allow supply runs from Falteris, she asks. He smirks. Oh, us blue skin buggers have to eat. They don't want to use their food on us, so they allow these mercy missions from Falteris as a publicity thing. The continued resistance to their presence here is also used to their advantage. They twist press stories and say that if they leave, this planet will become complete chaos and a haven for evil and wrong in the galaxy. They're trying to make themselves out to be the lawmen here, not the slave owners. It's really sickening. Your people have been through so much. What keeps you in this? Why keep going? She asks with genuine interest. Despite her close relationship to Talia, there isn't much political talk between them involving Altair. Talia sees it as a closed subject. I sometimes wonder that to myself, he responds. I mean, we're enabling their occupation here to cost them less, and might just be making it stronger as a result. I can't bear the thought of my people starving. Altarians are good people. It's the oppressors who need to be dealt with, but that has its time, and this isn't it, he says with a heavy sigh. They coast through the clouds and over the crystal clear ocean. The ship moves in for a landing as the continent comes into view. There's a large city built right on the shore, complete with a 20-foot high retaining wall in case of stormy weather and the storm surges those events could create. The shuttle clears the storm wall by barely 100 feet and then comes into landing on a dirt strip built just for this shuttle and others of its kind delivering supplies. As Dragon coasts to a landing, he sees Altarian faces emerging from nearby barracks. They're the lucky few who get to wait for supplies and not live ruled by Altilians every minute of the day. They're not dressed well, they don't look well fed as slaves, but they are certainly happier. Once the ship has come to a full stop on the ground, Dragon and Missy slowly get out of the ship and step down once it's seen they're unarmed and here to deliver supplies. There have been past instances where the Altilians would send in shuttles to drop off soldiers instead of supplies, and sometimes those soldiers simply killed everyone who was receiving said supplies. This was a show of force meant to inspire fear and obedience from the Altarian people. For the most part, it worked. Dragon shakes hands with the first Altarian to get close to him. In his native tongue, he addresses him. Good to see you. I bring grain, vegetables, and fertilizer for the crops. It's appreciated, the receiver says. He then looks over at Missy. Why bring a human here? She'll make the actual delivery. I'm being watched. He then turns to Missy and speaks to her in English. Make the delivery now. She nods and does as she's told. The bags of grain are heavy, and despite the jack they provide her to lift and carry the grain to the supply building, it's far heavier work than anything Talia would have her do. The exercise is one she didn't understand at the time Dragon suggested it. This exercise, I should say, is the one she didn't understand at the time Dragon suggested it. It seemed so random in the middle of the night, and with so much going on, to do something this reckless. Dragon had explained that the bad timing made it perfect, since Altil wouldn't be so worried about Altair at this time. While Missy makes the delivery, Dragon again looks around for any robots which might have been listening before he speaks. So Falteris is turned. Altil thinks they've suppressed a war. They've suppressed nothing. The Peace Restorer Civil Fund has been a success, and the Treaty of Jernon burns secretly. The Altarian man speaking to Dragon is shocked. The blood will flow, my friend. What does this war mean to us? Or what does this mean to us? Nothing as of yet, brother. There will come a time where you arise and fight with all you have. But this isn't it. It will come. We will be free. Don't lose faith, he says, and he embraces the man without hesitation, as this is perfectly fine among Altarians, even if they are relative strangers. Missy finishes the unloading of supplies and gets a pat on the back from one of her Altarian men watching her. It's an honor to help you, she says with a slight bow. You honor us with your efforts, he replies with a bow of his own. Missy returns to their shuttle, glad to have helped on some level. As Dragon returns to his seat, she addresses him. It seems so small, the amount we brought them. Dragon smiles. Fertilizer makes a great explosive. Altilians know that as well, though. Certainly they would be on top of that, she says, surprised at his admission. He shakes his head. This planet may not have a lot of terms of landmass, but the vast oceans are filled with mystery, and they want to know all they can. They also have a lot of slaves to keep in line, so they aren't counting on how much fertilizer we're dropping off, and it's not considered a dangerous item since it's so crude and low-tech. So, what exactly do you want me to tell Talia, she asks. He just sighs, looks out the window. This galaxy is a big place, yet Altil and Altair are remarkably close to one another. My people came here after our original homeworld became inhospitable ages ago. Life finds a way, people find a way to survive. We managed to zero in on a single planet a long distance away from a quickly spinning white sun in a system you would not suspect could support life. We can and will survive, but we need to do the right thing here. In this instance, he says as he takes off and heads back into the sky, war is the answer. I take this risk every time I come here, knowing the jig could be up and they could kill me in this very shuttle. Sometimes it's the risk that makes life worth living. If it's important, you take a risk to protect it. Those people you saw down there need us, and need everyone who is willing to help. The biggest advantage we have on Altil is compassion and the ability to work together. If Tally does the right thing here and aligns with Earth against Altil, Altair will rise up and we cannot be stopped. Missy looks out at the passing clouds while the sky gets darker. They're quickly in space and headed back to the checkpoint. I'll see what I can do, she promises. She doesn't know how much sway she has with her leader, but she understands how important this truly is. There's so much hanging in the balance. Doing what's right is more important than doing what's popular. And that's the end of the scene. That's important. It's all very, very important, very deep. It's very deep, philosophical. While the blue-skinned alien is getting past the orange fish people and taking a woman back to Falteries. It's a very deep philosophical book. A lot of deep philosophical meanings.
Continue.
I'm just pointing out the deepness.
Yes, super deep. Okay.
The deepness is important.
Right. Yeah.
And when I rewrite this, I have to bring the deepness back. The deepness is very important.
See, Shannon, if you rewrite it, you'll want to change so many things.
Oh, I'll change everything. It'll be completely different.
I know. It wouldn't be the same book, same story at all.
No. So it would incorporate parts of what the originals were when I was a kid, and some of this as well, and it would find a nice balance between the idealistic little kid that wanted everything to work out great, and then the obnoxious bitter Shannon that wrote this when he wasn't very happy about anything. So be a nice balance. Balance is important. Deepness is very important. I know people call it depth, but I think deepness sounds better.
Makes you sound more special.
Deepness.
Specialer. It makes you sound special.
I do sound specialer. You're right. That was a lot of smartness you showed there. I like that. That's good. Ken Young stands on the bridge of what he considers to be the best ship he's ever seen, much less served aboard. He prides himself on his work ethic and his ability to think before he acts, a very useful quality in a soldier. It makes this move to align with Mike Translow. In making this move to align with Mike Translow, he's left his family on Falteries well aware he may never see them again, but he has to fight for what's right. Staring out at a motionless starscape is tiring in itself. He cannot maintain a state of readiness, even knowing how important the work is they're doing here. He commands the Peace Restorer, a ship more advanced than anything his world had ever built. They have the advanced fighters in the docking bays waiting to be deployed, and the first-rate pilots waiting to fly them. He was raised in a military family, his father of the opinion that Altil was worthy of nothing but contempt. He had always been told, even as a child, to be wary of anything that an Altilian ever says, that their sincerity is never anything but a political game in order for them to gain their advantage. They're lower life forms in the galaxy, ones that believe themselves to be something more than what they are. Ken was wary of many things now, including charges from Altilians he has met that he is racist against their kind. He hasn't had an answer to that since they're essentially correct in terms of his prejudice. This assignment certainly won't change his opinion of those people that they're for the better. He knows that they will come here and it will turn violent, since that's the way it's always meant to go. They brought the best ships, the best fleet imaginable, because they're intending to fight. In terms of a crew to pilot the Peace Restorer, it's not one that has too many crew members. The ship basically flies itself, and technology's reached a point where they don't need anyone in engineering much unless something breaks down. Most of the working crew are on the bridge, and there isn't much chatter between them. It makes for a quiet work environment in the deep void of space itself being deathly quiet as always. Ken looks around the bridge and taps his fingernails on the chair. He looks over at his acting first officer. Major Flint, I'm headed to my quarters. Call me as soon as you see any sign of activity in the area. Flint nods. Got it, sir. Get yourself some rest. Ken lowers his head as he makes his way to the lift and starts heading back for the level his quarters were on. He's still getting used to everything in the ship being a shade of blue. The walls of the lift itself are made of frosted, bulletproof glass, blue lighting held within the glass. Ken hadn't asked yet what happens if any of the blue lights burn out. He's sure there will be some sort of answer that'll make him feel stupid for having asked the question in the first place. As he exits the lift, he enters a narrow hallway, which again is lit with blue lighting, this time in the form of neon lights at the corner of the ceiling along the outside of the hallway. The hallway is narrow, as this is a military vessel not created to make people feel comfort or pampered in any way. Though a lot of money was spent on its construction, it was spent to make it a fierce warship, not one to make it as easily livable for its crew. It was made for function and not for anything more than that. Once Ken reaches his quarter and sits down as a single-sized bunk, he looks over at an image of his wife. It saddens him to be away from her, but he knows that this is the best for both of them right now. He believes this ship has enough strength to keep him safe as possible, and he'll be home in one piece when his work here is done. There's a small window in his room which looks out into the void beyond. He has spent much of his recent life in space, and some days it's almost too much considering what he has waiting for him at home. He sighs and picks up his handheld computer at his desk. He presses the appropriate buttons to make a call home. He doesn't understand the technology that allows him to call his wife and carry on a real-time conversation despite being light years apart. He knows that this device somehow bends space, but he's a military man, not a man of science. Their talk will be brief as it normally is. Ken will remain in the shadows of his potential on this potential battlefield, but he may be the most important person in this possible battle, since he currently commands the best ship his people had ever built. It's the talks with his wife that keep him going. Knowing the Altilians want to wipe her and their kids out just make him mad enough to continue with this mission and remain loyal to Mike Translow and his cause. The end of chapter 6. And then that's the end of the book, I think. Yeah, the rest of this is just all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. I don't know why I just made it that from chapter 7 on. I don't know why I did that.
You're such a dork.
I needed the word count. So you just do that and you get your word count up. So, because NaNoWriMo is 60,000 words in a month. So you just do that a bunch of times and you get it. So. Weren't you weirded out when you reached that part of the book and it was just all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy?
Yeah, well, luckily that's not what you did with the book, so...
Alright, fine. Chapter 7. We will start chapter 7. Yeah, we'll read the first scene from chapter 7. Jim frantically unties the bindings holding his brother down with the help of Donna Meadows' clone. Dr. Jeff Wakeman starts looking through the mountains of data regarding the testing being done in the bowels of the building. His eyes widen with every piece of data he reads while the Webster family reunites and makes certain that everyone is okay. This is fascinating and insane all at the same time, he explains, holding a piece of paper out for Jim. They've been tracking your family since before you signed up. Started right after John signed up for special operations. His aptitude tests were the best scores ever seen across the board. He was seen as a superhero. Well, don't let John see this or it'll go to his head, Steve says while rubbing his wrist to get the feeling back into them. He pats Rob on the back, glad they're free, while their mother looks on with their usual scowl. Dr. Wakeman continues, John Webster was found to have human DNA which defied the rules in the eyes of the Altilians. Researchers here found this out, and it looks like Blair dropped absolutely everything they were doing with cloning and other experiments and dumped it all into the perfect DNA model. If John has perfect DNA, why? That's why the boys were tied down and he wanted Jim in here next. He got me in here all right, Jim says, looking over his shoulder at the very dead Blair Drake. If he regrets shooting an unarmed man, it certainly doesn't show. He's always been fiercely protective of his family, and this is just the latest example of how far he'll go to prove it. This may very well be career suicide, but that's none of his concern here. The doctors downstairs got themselves into some serious crap by injecting themselves with whatever the hell the Altilians were using on the people in the arcologies. They underestimated what that would do, and Blair here was the man in charge of that action as well. The thing is, Jim, this paperwork was sent by someone else. Blair's publicly seen as the leader of Special Ops, but he's not. Say what? Jim asks, grabbing the paper from Jeff. It's all right there. The paperwork was sent off. Find the name associated with that ID and you have your true leader of Earth's Special Operations Team. The way Blair words some of this, the way he puts down Dave Bellows, I don't think he's in charge of Jack either. The military wing is impotent, basically. It's all germ warfare to get these buggers and research into ways that to kill on massive scales without a shot fired. We have a planet filled with people who want to kill Altillians, but if they knew what was going on here, the doctor's voice trails off. The cleansing, Marianne says with a half smile. Not now, Mother, Rob says, rolling his eyes. This planet has strayed from the perfect plan. Even the insane scientists from down below knew and told Blair as much. The entire mess is because the creator of this world is angry with what we've done with it. We're at war with an alien civilization after using our planet up. We live like caged rats. And that was never God's plan and idea of life for us. We should have land, crops, and a simple life. That was his plan, and we ruined it through eons of arrogance, Marianne says with certainty as if she was preaching before a church. With all due respect, I don't think that's the main issue here, Donna says. Yes, these people were playing God and all, but they're gone, and the big picture is the war we're in. There's no cleansing by God at work here, just an insane dream by an alien race hell-bent on destroying us. I've seen so much, Marianne says, shaking her head. This all falls in line with what I've seen, the visions that have haunted me. It all makes perfect sense, and so many laughed at me for my ideas. I won't hear them laughing any more. We're on the brink of total annihilation here, she says with dread. Mom, seriously, this is not the time. Take your message to the church if you want, but we need to find out what the hell this DNA stuff's all about, Rob says. We could always start with the fact you never got married, never even had a boyfriend any of us saw, and yet you've got 4 sons. That's kind of odd. You always change the subject when we ask about who our dad is. Marianne smiles and strokes Rob's cheek. It was a holy union that brought John into this world. His DNA was perfect. That makes sense since he was always so bright in school and always so thoughtful. Now he can take his rightful place as the new Messiah. Okay, why don't you go and try to sit down, Jim says to his mother. He tries to lead her away. I'm not crazy. This is God's plan, Jim. If you do not fall in line with the plan, you will perish too. I didn't raise you boys to adulthood to watch you all perish when the cleansing comes. This is the most important time in any of our lives. We must be alert, watch the skies, and be ready for the moment when the earth is prepared for the return of the real king of the world, she says, while Jim sits her down on one of the bunks. I love you, Mother, but stop, Steve says with a hand raised in an effort to silence her. So we go see Dave then, Rob asks Jim. Jim winces. Yeah, sure, we go see Dave. Maybe he's done talking with Jenny and will listen to us. I can see the talk being finished, but the talking to us part, and not so much. What about Mother, Rob asks. Stay here with her. It's safe down here. Dr. Wakeman has more reading to do anyway. Call me if you find out anything important down here. Jim responds. You're the one who has to stay because you asked, bro, Steve says with a laugh as he pats Rob on the back before following Jim and the others out of the room, heading for their meeting with Dave Bellows. And that's the end of that scene. So yeah, I would enjoy changing that.
You would change a lot of it though.
Or
maybe a different story.
Or I could try to write like writers do and do like a story guideline and I could plot it out. I remember one time I was thinking about doing it like 9 parts and I had the whole thing plotted out and then I went, that's a really good idea, and then I didn't do it because I already knew how it ended from the beginning. But maybe I'm old enough now, maybe I'm mature enough that I could actually see that through. Where I could actually do like plotting and planning.
Maybe you just don't write that way. Maybe you think differently.
Maybe we'll see. All right, so there you go. We're through another portion of the book tonight. We'll do this again in a week, and maybe 2. I'm thinking. But I will say this. This is fun. I enjoy doing this, and I'm glad for the approximately 200 people that are tuning in. Well, it's a pretty consistent number, about 200 every one of them. So that's good. The first reading I did got 3,500 views, and then 200 remain. So that's a low rate of return, but it's okay. It's fine. It's okay. Yeah, so thanks for watching. Once again, stay safe. Stay home if you can. Try not to get caught up in the crazy right now. So I know it's easy to go crazy right now because we've all been home for a long time and we all want to leave. Yvonne and I would love to go to the mall and just wander around and just
Even
just
walk around the park, I was
just
talking to
have
the kids. It would
just
be
have
so
a
nice
normal.
we live right by trails and lakes.
Yep, just have a
It'd be
nice
so
normal
nice to just
experience.
since it's all nice and sunny and warm.
And we know we
It'd
can't.
be really nice.
We know we can't. And it's too bad. I'd love to go for a jog around, around the trails, but you can't. So it's just that's the way things are now. And
But if we all behave now, then we'll get to have our summer.
Exactly. Yes.
We have to kind of miss spring.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But if we behave, we can have summer.
Yep. So,
I would like to have summer.
I would like to have summer as well. We have a lot of plans for the summer, so it'd be really nice if we didn't have to cancel everything. And for people who are like, you gotta cancel everything, just save that. Just we know where we're at. It's nice to have that future
Something
that we're looking at and saying, okay, yeah. So as much as people want to extinguish that light at the end of the tunnel for people as much as possible, we're not discouraging that, because it doesn't hurt to be optimistic and hopeful. It's not
Being hopeful
bad.
Helps mentally.
Yes. As long as you're realistic about it, being hopeful is not a bad thing. And I don't think those are mutually exclusive. Being realistic doesn't mean you have to be a Debbie Downer all the time. But,
No.
I mean, the Debbie Downer bits were really funny on Saturday Night Live. But we're not in Saturday Night Live. And right now, neither are they.
No.
They're all at home, too. So, yeah. Also, I would say look for probably a News of the Day video on this channel tomorrow as well. We don't have Easter tomorrow, so I should have more time. And when I have more time, it means more videos. That's generally how it works. Because I should be making a video right now. Mm-hmm. And that's basically how I work.
Yeah.
So, thank you guys so much for all your support. It means a lot. And as long as people are watching the videos of the cats that are not on the tree right now, they're all not here.
I know. I noticed that when you were reading that there were no cats in there, which is so weird.
As I guess
there's usually 3 in here during story time.
I guess they realize they've had their camera time for today. They've already been on the internet. And they're like, yeah, screw it. We're good. But as long as those videos are popular, we will continue to produce those. So thank you guys so much for everything. And again, stay safe. And I'll talk to you again soon.